Welcome to Leaving Nothing to Chance, your go-to podcast where we bring you insights from some of the most influential voices in small business and personal development. Each week, we dive deep into conversations with top thought leaders, authors, and business moguls from around the world, sharing their secrets to success and strategies for growth. Tune in for exclusive content that will inspire, motivate, and equip you to take your journey to the next level. This is Leaving Nothing to Chance.
Hey, this is going to be a lot of fun. My new friend, we've known each other for about a month now, Miss Lexi Taveras from beautiful Miami, just flew in from Dublin, Ireland, where she was at a good friend's wedding and world traveler. She's going to Spain. You say you're going to Spain? May?
End of May, yeah, just in time for summer.
Yeah, you'll love it. You'll love it. So how are you, Lexi? Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm excited to connect with you and have really great conversation, bring some value to those who are listening. And I'm excited to dive in.
Lexi, you're a very healthy person. You teach health, you live health. So let's talk health today. Let's help people get a little bit healthier. Maybe there's a couple little things that they could tweak. A lot of them are probably doing the right things already, but there's things that they can certainly do better that you tell your clients. So let's just start at the top. Let's talk a little bit about somebody who we both admire, Mr. David Goggins, and the 5 things that you find that Goggins says that are game changers.
Yeah. Yeah. So Goggins, for those who don't know him, David Goggins, you probably don't, but he's someone that I really look up to in terms of like discipline and getting up and doing the things, because obviously getting in shape is one thing, staying in shape and really maintaining the lifestyle is another thing. Because I think sometimes we lose the weight or we get in shape and they're like, okay, cool, reach the destination. And then all of a sudden we start to, oh, I'll just have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. All of a sudden we wake up and we're like, wait, why are my jeans tighter again? Why do I feel like this again? Is that what I look like in a photo? And it's obviously not just about looks, it's about the way you feel, but it really is that embodiment. One of the main things that he said in a podcast that I really took away from was really armoring up your mind and your body before you get into your day. And I don't know about you, John, if you have a morning ritual. I know we've talked about like certain things that you personally do, but I feel like sometimes when we're so go all the time and we are have this vision for our life and we're trying to make things happen, and depending on where you're at, it's so easy to put our health on the back burner, and we're consistent for a little bit of time. And then what happens? Oh, life starts to life, work gets really hectic, the kids, this and that, I'm traveling, and those core things start to slip. So, what he means by that is really waking up, doing something almost like difficult to start your day to almost like armor you up. So, for me, that's like a cold shower. I don't have an ice thing that I can plunge into, or I know you have a pool, John, but just something that's really gonna, it's like so hard. Like it's not hard, but it is. It's like I wake up, I don't wanna just get super cold right now. And that is just something that's leaning into discomfort allows me to just armor up my mind. I've done something difficult already. Maybe for you, that's going to the gym. Maybe it's just not even going on your phone. It could be something super simple for you, but doing that one difficult thing upon waking up armors you up for the day. And then another thing, because I could spend so much time on all the 5 things, is really being able to perform without purpose. I thought that was honestly, it was a big, it stood out to me personally because I feel like, at least for me, I don't know how you feel, John, if I'm not feeling motivated, like you're not going to feel motivated all the time, or you're not feeling super passionate about the task that you're doing because it takes a little bit of effort and it's a little daunting, you feel like you just don't do it, or you're not feeling it, so you don't do it, or you do a different task that isn't like a priority, like it doesn't need to get done right now, but it fills the space of doing the thing that you know you need to do. And so being able to perform without always needing that passion and that motivation is huge for me, because you're not always going to have it. And that, I feel, is where true confidence comes from, is being able to do the thing the daunting thing, the mundane thing, when you don't have the instant gratification, when you don't have the constant motivation going, which then builds that confidence to keep showing up. So those are some of my takeaways. I'm curious how that relates to you, your audience, what they might think or questions they might have when it comes to that.
I think as you were saying that, the word that was coming to my mind was overwhelmed. I think what happens with a lot of people, they think they outthink themselves in terms of, I know I should go to the gym today, or take the walk today, or ride the bike, or do whatever the activity is that they enjoy doing fitness wise, or to your point about cold water therapy or whatever it happens to be. I've talked to some people, their first thing in the morning is stretching before they do anything, for example. And some people think so much about it. And I think in my case, what I had to do, because I was so overwhelmed sometimes, and I just said, you know what? I'm just going to start when I get up. And what I mean by that is I just start. And it's a part of that start is within an hour of being awake, I know I have to at least be in transit to the gym. Or if I'm doing an outdoor workout, like as the weather gets nice down here, I love outdoor workouts. I do farmers walks outside. I throw shot put disc. Sometimes I'll run. Even my hips are pretty shot, but I'll go to the park and I'll run at the track or something. But just doing it versus thinking about it. Do you find it like with some of your clients that they're like, I want to do this, Lexi, I want to do that. And they got all these ideas instead of just saying, okay, Mary, pick one.
Yes, 100%. I am glad that you brought that up because you're absolutely right. I think in my experience with clients, there's this desire to almost change everything overnight, and you're almost setting goals or setting expectations from a very motivated place because you're ready to change and you're tired of your own crap and you're frustrated with yourself and you just want to change. And then you say you're going to do all these things and the overwhelm hits. And then what happens when the overwhelm hits? Then you procrastinate, you find yourself scrolling, you find yourself doing something else. Getting distracted is a big one. And it's like how you said, you're thinking about the drive to the gym and changing your clothes and the environment of the gym and the workout. And you're thinking about the effort that it takes. And mind you, your brain is literally burning calories as we speak just by thinking about doing the thing. So you're already losing energy just by doing the thing. It's like when you visualize yourself doing it, like your brain is actually already losing steam. So to your point, yeah, like I have what I call the 3, 2, 1 go method. And what this is, I pretty much, when I find myself feeling overwhelmed or my clients are feeling overwhelmed, they're thinking about the task of doing the thing. We stop what we're doing, we count back from 3, and we get up and we go. Whether that's slamming down your laptop, throwing your phone across the room, jumping out of your chair, whatever it is. And it's like how you said, you just go, you just start. What is the first next step? And so what I'll do is, and what I have my clients do, which seems to get pretty good feedback, and you guys try it for yourselves. Let's say you're avoiding the gym because the effort, you're thinking about the task that it takes. What is the first step? Changing my clothes or getting up. That's the first step, just getting up. So 3, 2, 1, get up. And you literally rocket ship just out of whatever you're doing. And you start and you move and you get into action. And then from there, you don't have to do the whole workout. It's like how you said, just get to the dang parking lot, then get into the gym. Then maybe you just start your warm up. Or like you said, at home workout. Can you just go outside and start just like stretching or like just start one step at a time instead of looking at the entire staircase and sitting at the bottom and being like, I'm so overwhelmed, this whole staircase of things. Take the first step.
And along those lines, Lexi, do you advise people, especially your clients who haven't worked out in a long time? Somebody who's just, they procrastinated, they've gained the weight, they've gotten into some unhealthy habits, maybe they're eating a lot of junk, and they're having a hard time. Do you advise them to maybe start with micro workouts, just meaning that, hey, just once again, get a stretchy band and stretch with it, or get a yoga mat and lay on it and move your body? Or what ideas can somebody who hasn't been taking good care of themselves, that knows that how can they
Mhm.
start that process and maybe take those baby steps? to get themselves back
Right.
moving again?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. So 100%. The first things that I think about with my clients is meeting them where they're at and also what is enjoyable to them. Because if it's enjoyable to you, and it's not always going to be enjoyable, right? But for somebody who's been out of the game for a little bit of a while, they're just more likely to stick to it if it brings them some sense of enjoyment. And yeah, micro workouts are incredible. So everybody's really different. Every client that comes to me is completely different. We don't have a cookie cutter kind of way that we just put people through. But I'll give you an example. Let's say someone comes to work with us and they want to get into the gym, they want to get into the habit of the gym, but like a whole workout plan is too overwhelming for them. So start them off with a gym exposure plan. So this could be as simple as just go on the treadmill, 15 minutes, do these stretches, right? Maybe start with some resistance band workouts. And you're not spending 2 hours in the gym weightlifting. You're not doing 5 days a week, but we're starting you small. So that way you can then be consistent. So again, this is going to look different for everybody. For moms who are postpartum and they're stay-at-home moms, let's start at home with where you're at and then slowly build from there. But if we can make it enjoyable, AKA it's not overwhelming you and you're not intimidated by it and you can stick with it, you're more likely to stick with it. The entire premise of it is, can we make it a habit? That's the thing. Whatever it is, if it's an outdoor workout, if it's rollerblading, if it's going on daily walks, can we just make it a habit? And if we can make it, when we want to make it a habit, there needs to be some incentive to it, some type of enjoyment, and something that you can stick to. So micro workouts are incredible, and that might look different for everybody. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, okay, I'm overwhelmed with choices. Do I do at home? Do I go to the gym? I want you to ask yourself, number one, what is something, a form of movement, anything? Use your intuition just off the top of your head, the first thing that comes to you, that if you did it 2 to 3 times a week, you could stick to that for 6 to 8 weeks. If that's walking, that's your homework. Walk 30 minutes 3 times a week and have some form of tracking that. And then after you're consistent with that for 4 weeks, what else do you want to try? I want to try at home workouts, YouTube workouts. Okay, cool. What is realistic and doable for you to stick with in terms of frequency? Realistically, 2 times a week. I want to do 5, but no, don't say 5. 2 times a week is what you can stick to. That is your goal. Not 5, not 6 days of boot camp. Okay. But what you can stick to and then building from there, which I think is hard sometimes for people because they feel like it's not enough. But the whole goal is to make it a habit. So that's what I would recommend.
So how do people stop comparing themselves? One of the things I notice, especially with a lot of people that haven't been training, probably women more so than men, okay, but men do it too, is they go in the gym, they see somebody who's buff, right, who's obviously been there and doing it and consistent and eating properly and hydrating properly and resting, doing all the things that you and I know people should do. But let's face it, it's a busy world. There's a lot of things that distract people. So maybe the person who's gotten out of that goes back to the gym and they go, wow, all these people are in great shape. By the way, I belong to two different gyms here in Dallas, which is one of the fitness capitals of the country. Most people don't look that great. So,
Right.
including yours truly. And I work out every day. But
Right.
the point is, if they walk in and they go, wow, that guy's benching 500 over there, or that lady's, she's running up a storm on the treadmill. I can't do that. How do they do that where they just go, hey, I'm not here for them. I'm here for me? How do they make that mental mindset move, if you will, so they don't compare themselves and they realize that they're there for they're doing the right thing and that they're there for their health? How do they get themselves in that proper mindset where they're not worried who else is there?
Yeah, I feel like you're definitely on the right track of bringing your focus back to you. And what comes up for me is own lane, own race, own pace.
Hmm.
That's a quote. I didn't come up with that, but that's the quote that comes through for me. And I think when you find yourself, oh, look at them, when you're feeling discouraged or you're feeling like you just want to get there, own race, own lane, own pace.
Hmm.
I'm on my own journey. And comparison in my opinion, it's not always a bad thing because all it's doing is reflecting back to you a hidden desire. You have a hidden desire, right? Where it starts to become bad is when you start to focus on the lack and you make it about your feeling of incapability and you start to have the negative self talk. But if you can recognize that's a desire for me, shit, I want to look like that. I want to get to that place. Cool. Let's work towards that long term. But instead of focusing on the outcome, focusing on the behavior and who do I need to be? And I had a conversation with a client today. She's been crushing it. And she's, oh, Lexi, I've been having thoughts again of, I feel like I should be making even more progress and just comparing myself. And I started this because I just wanted to be healthy for myself. But like now I'm starting to focus more on my looks and my weight again. And I told her it's okay to desire that outcome. You know what I mean? But the outcome is an outcome based off who you're being. So when we shift our focus, yes, to like how you said, to ourselves, but taking it a level deeper of like focusing on the behaviors and the level of embodiment and the identity of who you're being, of the version of yourself that has the muscle and the strength and the health and maybe the aesthetic look that you want. And focusing on that every single day. Who do I need to be in this moment? With the version of me that is jacked or has the physique and super athletic, like I'm already that. The physical just needs to catch up, right? So like focusing on who do I need to be in order to do the things consistently, like the gym and meal prep and limiting alcohol and all the things to have the body, the health, the confidence that I want. Most people focus on what do I need to do? What do I need to do? But you want to focus first on who do I need to be? And this is so cliche, but you really can't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. That's what I call entitlement. It sounds rude, like I'm not entitled, but that's the ego. The ego is I want to get there, but that person's put in the work. Like they've put in the work. They've gotten up and done the things, and maybe they have different obligations. Like I have clients that compare themselves to clients that I'm like, how are you comparing yourself to someone who hasn't had the life transitions that you've had and hasn't had the like things happen in your life that you've had? This person has had smooth sailing for 6 months. You've had this happen and that happen and this happen. So give yourself some grace and understand that all you're seeing is their outcome and that is available for you. But it's going to come up from a place of embodiment and focusing on behavior goals instead of outcome based goals.
Great. So let's talk about the yo-yo diet thing, because that's something that personally, as a guy, guys never talk about diets the way women do. But we,
Right.
believe it or not, some of the things in the locker room that guys do talk about is losing weight.
Yeah.
And of course, the sports I was in, you always had to make weight, right? Wrestling and judo and everything, and powerlifting. It was like there was weight classes, right? So you talk about it from that standpoint, but not necessarily cosmetically or health wise. But I think more guys are concerned with their weight than they are. And I was a yo-yo dieter. I'd be on this diet this week, go a couple of weeks, that didn't work, go on something else until I finally got to what I do today, okay, where I'm pretty much raw vegan. But that's me. That worked for me. That doesn't work for everybody. For some people, it's carnivore. For some people, it's paleo. There are all these different things, right? How do you get somebody to just say, give my body a chance to adjust to whatever path that they agree with? Maybe their doctor agrees with them, their trainer, yourself agrees with it. Hey, this is good for you, Susie. This is good for you, Bill. Right? How do you get them on that path where they just say, yeah, but I talked to so and they're on this or that and they lost all this weight?
Yeah. Yeah. I first want to note that I truly believe that men and women are way more similar than I think we think and give ourselves credit for. I think with men, it's more, I think that when it comes to industry, women are more targeted. So, like when it comes to beauty and health and all of that stuff, I think when you look at magazines, you don't really see lose 30 pounds in X amount of time. Like maybe you see a dude on there, but like it's usually like a woman or like a. So I think that men 100% deal with a lot of the yo-yo dieting. Actually, there's a large percentage of men that struggle with eating disorders and disordered eating. It's just more hidden. So I would say that it's just less talked about. Woman, it's like we freaking bond over that in a weird way growing up. Being skinny, it's not okay. It's like more normalized. Shouldn't be. But to answer your question, if we think about yo-yo dieting in general, I personally believe first piece of it is what we call a canon event. And what a canon event is an event that you have to go through on your own to like people can tell you, coaches can tell you, your friends can tell you like this is the right way, but you have to go through the painful path on your own to actually get to the point of okay, like these diets are not going to work because I feel like there's a certain level of emotional maturity when it comes to your health and your body and your fitness that has to be developed. And I truly believe that, going through all those fad diets and those dieting history, you get to the point of experience of, okay, like enough with the shiny object syndrome. I just want sustainability. So that's one piece. Now, if you're someone listening to this and you're like, Lexi, absolutely not. I'm not trying to waste time. I don't want to hop from diet to diet. Like I've been doing that. You have to understand why we do that in the first place. And this comes back to delayed gratification and why, like I always say, the frequency and the energy that you are operating in your health and fitness journey in. And what do I mean by that? Right? Is are you operating in your health and fitness journey from a place of, I need to lose weight and I need to look a certain way. And like, I'm just so uncomfortable. Like, I'll do anything to get this off. Already in the wrong place. Because what are you going to look for? Quick fixes, shiny object, magic pill doesn't exist. And so this is when people start off with good intentions, but then they hear their friend talking about this thing that they're doing, and this friend's doing this, and this friend's doing that. And it's almost like the devil and the angel on your shoulder. The angel knows, no, long-term sustainability, but the little devil's, don't you want to see if you can lose weight? Like maybe I can just stick to this and then maintain it. You know what I mean? And looking for the shortcuts. So if you are really adamant about getting off of the yo-yo diet cycle, this goes back to focusing less on outcome based goals and who do I need to be? Does the version of me that has the health and the body, are they hopping from diet to diet? Or are they focusing on living and leading a healthy lifestyle? Now, when it comes to nutrition, if we're going to get like more basic and technical, it's not about going on different diets, but just improving your diet overall. Because when we think about your diet, it's literally the word diet just means the foods that you habitually eat and your relationship with food in general. So if we can just improve the foods that you habitually eat by following an add, don't restrict mindset. So most people go restrict. They go, okay, I need to cut this out. And then they're left with what? Leaves and grass. And they're like, okay, I can't keep up with this. Like, F this. I'm just going to have the beer and the pizza. Maybe I'm just not meant to be healthy and fit. You know what I mean? Instead, what do we need to add into your diet to make it healthier? Easy off the bat: protein, fiber, fruits, water. And then as you healthy carbs, and as you add these things in, guess what naturally starts to fall off? You start to crave the sugar less. I'm feeling so good. I don't even want the beer. I don't want to feel bloated. So when it comes to nutrition, what are 1 to 2 things I know that I'm lacking in my diet that if I add in, I will be healthier? And those are usually the basics. Then relationship with food. The yo-yo diet is really about restricting, overeating, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight. And so if we want to get off the roller coaster, we have to have that steadiness. So when it comes to that, it's really about rewiring your thinking around food, around your body, around the scale. And I could go into that. It's just like a whole nother conversation, but those would be the main things to get off the yo-yo diet cycle.
Would you say that whatever somebody, probably once again with some guidance, not only from a professional like yourself as a trainer, but also maybe their doc, that they pick one? Because what I always hear is, and I hear a lot of this at the gym, is especially the women that I know at the gym. 1 week they're on this diet, 2 weeks later on another diet. And I'm saying your body, you haven't given your body a chance. Your body's an intelligent design. You haven't given your body a chance to say whether your body likes this or not, to tell your brain, hey, I'm good with this. My energy level's good. My performance at work is good. My relationships with my family are good. I'm not jumping down somebody's throat, but I didn't lose weight fast enough. And I asked
Mm.
one lady, this was funny. I asked one lady, she said, yeah, I lost 7 pounds, but now I'm going to go on this diet. I said, you lost 7 pounds. That's great. And
Right.
she wasn't a particularly overweight woman, but, and I'm eavesdropping on the conversation. I'm thinking, I'm probably going to get shot by jumping into this conversation with these people. I said, man, that's terrific. I said, I see you here a lot. You're consistent with your workouts. She goes, yeah, but now I'm going on, and I won't name it diets, but I said, why are you doing that? You seem like you're on the right path. I said, then she was gracious in her answer. But my question to you on that, Lexi, is when you get somebody like that where it's not fast enough because they're worried about that number on the scale, or they're worried about that dress or that suit or that pair of jeans still not fitting properly, what do you tell them so you get them to just be, give themselves a chance?
Yeah, it's less about telling them, it's more about asking the right questions because people like that, especially, there's ego. It's now like I want to do this. It's gonna make me lose weight faster, and like I know what I'm doing, kind of thing. And it's almost like when you try to tell them the right route, it's almost like sustainability is paired with slow. And in a way, it is a little, it's not going to happen overnight. But what's happening there is you're more focused on changing your body than you are changing your lifestyle. And so it's less about telling, it's more about asking questions. This is what I do as a coach and what our team does. So if this person is like, well, I just lost 7 pounds, I'm going to hop on this one. My first question is, yeah, let me ask you this. Can I, out of curiosity, if you lost 7 pounds, what is motivating you to hop on a different diet? Well, I'll lose weight even faster. Okay. And what is your motivation for losing this weight? Why do you feel like it needs to be done faster than even it is right now? Because I feel super uncomfortable in my body. I just hate it, like blah, 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 blah. Okay. What is your plan after you lose the weight? Like, what is your plan to actually maintain it? Do you believe that this plan that you're about to do, how long do you truly believe you can keep that up? Not long. It's just for me to lose the weight and then I'll just eat healthy and work out. How many times have you done that in the past? And then they start to calculate, oh shit, may I am in the same patterns and I do need a different way if I want to maintain it. And so for me, it's about asking those questions to lead them to their own autonomy.
Mm,
And then from there, it's up to them because that's my job as a coach, not to tell you what to do. It's to guide you on what is right for you and ask you those questions to guide you in the right direction.
that's a great way to do it. Yeah, yeah. Kind of let them draw their own conclusions from their own.
Exactly. Because that's what people are going to do what they want to do anyway. So it's like,
So let's talk about something else that's a concern to me, and I'm sure to you and to most of us that are paying attention anyway. And that is our youth. Boy, they're out of shape, with exceptions, obviously, a lot of exceptions. Okay, but generally, like there's a middle school, like seventh and eighth graders that I go sometimes do one of my morning workouts this time of year when the weather gets great. Like I'll do my farm and walks. I'm thinking I'm a 64-year-old guy. I'm out here carrying 45-pound bars, and I'm looking at some of these kids, boys and girls, with
yeah.
expanded stomachs. They don't have gym class like we did when we were kids. Their gym class is basically walking around the track slowly, which is better than
And
nothing.
hanging out.
And of course they're all on their phone. But here's my question is a difficult question, but how do we get through to the parents who a lot of times are healthier than their kids, that they're on a disastrous path with the junk that they're eating, with the fact that they spend way too much time on technology? Like, how do we get mom and dad to wake that heck up
Hmm.
and take a look at their kid, not in a nasty way, but to say, hey, Junior, you know what? Let's ring dings, more push ups. How do we do that? Is there a good approach? I guess is my question. And my kids were all athletes, so I never had a problem with my kids having a weight issue. But what do you say to mom or dad when all of a sudden maybe you see them at the gym and they're one of your things, and then you look at their kid and go, wow, what are you letting this kid eat
Yeah.
or
It's
do
a,
for that matter?
yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's definitely a layered question, like a layered situation for sure. I definitely think one aspect is environment, like our food, the statistics when you compare like our food. especially in the States compared to the 60s and 70s, is just completely different and altered. The soil, everything like that. On another layer, leading by example, right? Like you said, maybe the parents are in the gym. I find it hard to believe that if that was the case from when the kid was young, that the kid wouldn't follow in those footsteps, right? Because when you lead by example, that's all kids do is just follow the leader. And if it's not the parents, it's their friends, which that's another conversation. So I would say, again, you can't get someone to do something, but if you can lead by example and incorporate them in those activities for yourself. And I think setting boundaries and like actually putting your foot down, because just through observation and experience, even within my own family, there's like a lot of enabling or just like softness, or I don't know how to explain it, where it's like I'm the oldest child, right? So I'm basically third parent, pretty much. My parents, they struggled with yo yo dieting and all of that. And I love them. They're always trying to strive for health. My sister and my older brother, he's super athletic like me, very cognizant of his health. But like my little sister, she eats like chips and cookies and like she'll eat out. And I'm like, let's meal prep. I'm like, that's not food. Okay. She'll be like, oh, can you pick up Dairy Queen for me? I'm like, no, I'm not picking you up Dairy Queen. We're going to meal prep together. And at first she's like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, we're going to do it together. That's what we're going to do. And I really think it comes down to, yeah, the parenting. Because if you're leading by example now, that's great. But if they've lived a certain lifestyle up until sixth grade, seventh grade, that's not going to change. So if you can't get them in sports, because I think that's the easiest way is to get them into sports or get them into extracurricular activities, period. If that's theater, or hobbies, volunteer work, because if not, it's going to be filled with the games and tech, which isn't bad, but it is bad when it comes to health. And set really strict boundaries. They're not going to like it at first, but they will thank you in 4 or 5 years from now when they're in shape and they have these habits instilled in them versus the latter, where, you know, even us, like I remember for me when before I started my health and fitness journey, I was like, dang, like I wish my parents like taught me these things, but they didn't know. They were only taught with their parents and what they grew up in. So I had to figure it out for myself. So when I think when it comes to the youth, it's thinking about why. If the parents are in the gym now, that's great, but like, how's the parents' nutrition at home? Are the parents being healthy or are they just dieting? You know what I mean? Because I know a ton of kids, unfortunately, their parents just put them on diets. And what do you think that's going to do to the kid? The kid's going to be like, F this, I'm going to binge on the vending machine food when I'm at school. You know what I mean? Because I'm not, mom's got me on a diet. It's like changing from diet culture to health and wellness and doing it from a place of love, but setting boundaries. Because when I think about when I'm a mom, excuse my language, but I'm not fucking around. We are going to be healthy, strong. We can have our treats, but you're going to cry and you're going to whine. You're going to hate me. Cool. Don't care because I love you. And so that would be my answer. And yeah, when it comes to the school system, that's a whole nother story. I'm not knowledgeable enough to go into that, but I think that if we can start within the home, that's the biggest thing.
I know as a kid, my parents were first generation Europeans, and everything was chicken, roast beef, and a vegetable was a potato or a overcooked piece, occasionally a broccoli. Until I was about 30 years old, I didn't realize fruits and vegetables were like something you really should consume a lot of. It was like as I got more into the nutrition business was when I was like, yeah, I'm taking these expensive supplements, but I'm eating McDonald's. Maybe you should try a salad, you know what I mean? And I'm a reasonably intelligent guy. And it was like, it took me a while to make that transition because of the way I was raised. So it really does concern me. Like I said, I see so many of these kids and then you see the mom or dad, and they're in great shape. And it's, well, what are you teaching your kid? Oh, you stop at McDonald's on the way to practice. Don't stop at McDonald's. Make some food, or better yet, to your point, either meal prep yourself, or these days there's so many great services of meal prep where you can make sure that kid actually gets some fruits and vegetables into their diet. Okay, whether they consume a meat or not, another discussion. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, where you know that they're actually going to be able to go to the bathroom, for God's sakes, etc. So anyway, let's move on with questions because we could probably spend a day on that one.
Yeah. I love these questions. Yeah.
Okay, here's a tough one for you. Okay, what habits should people establish to be successful?
And successful in general, successful.
Health, business, life in general, right? Because it's all life as macro and everything else is micro.
Yeah. The first thing that comes up for me is choose one thing every single day for these three categories: mind, body, spirit. And if you can choose one thing for each of those categories every single day, you will be successful because one thing is the mind. So this could look like things that are going to help you manage your thoughts and your thinking and your mindset. This doesn't have to be journaling for 20 minutes if you don't want it to be. It could be, hey, like I had a crappy thought today and I reframed it and I did a really good job of reframing that thought. That's you already ticked off that box for the day. For me, that was me. My mind was going, I was feeling stifled, frustrated because again, wanting something overnight or feeling like I was, when you want something, but then your perfectionism comes in, so you stifle it and then you're stuck and you're frustrated with yourself and you start the negative thinking. And I moved myself out of that. That was a huge mind win. Maybe it is listening to a podcast that expands your mind. Maybe it is reading 5 pages of a book. Maybe it's actually having nothing consuming in your mind for the day, right? No news, no podcasts, no books. I'm just going to go on like a non-stimulation walk where I'm like, the only thing I'm intaking is like the senses of my surrounding. So that's like mind, right? Protecting your mind. And this goes back to earlier, like armoring up your mind, right? Like our mental diet. We're talking about like physical diet. What about your mental diet? If you are in fear, scarcity, lack, like you need to look at your mental diet because we're being conditioned every single day to be in fear, scarcity, and lack. And that's not our natural state of being. And then that then affects your body, right? Then you start to crave more sugar and you don't feel like moving because you're so blah, blah, blah. The next thing is physical. So what's something you can do for your body that day? Maybe it's stretching. Maybe it's the micro workouts. Maybe it's just getting good sleep because you've been operating off of 6 hours of sleep and espresso shots for the past 3 months, right? Can we get good sleep today or get in a workout, a walk? And then spirit. Now, whether you're spiritual or not, religious, doesn't really matter. I think that when you think of spirit, I want you to think of your heart, your emotions, right? So things that are going to help you clear emotional clutter. This could be meditation. I think meditation is powerful. You can do prayer, you can do gratitude, you can do anything, but things are going to help you connect to your heart center. And why this is important, because it brings you fulfillment. And I think you can achieve a lot in your life, but if you don't feel fulfilled, that's when people get depressed. That's when people feel empty. That's when people feel a void. The thing that brings you fulfillment is going to be your connection to self. And the only way you can really do that is by connecting on a energetic level. And energetic isn't woo, it's literally science. We're made up of atoms and particles and like we're like hello. And if you're able to feel those emotions of gratitude and thankfulness and for where you're at now instead of all the things that you want, I think those are three really solid categories. If you can just check off one micro thing for that every single day, you'll be successful. And that's just like applicable to everybody and everyone.
I wrote a question here, Lexi, and I don't know how you want to answer this, okay? But how do we change the things that we don't see? And what I mean by that is we've all got things that we're weak on. Myself, I could make a list of stuff that I know I need to improve. And you just mentioned a lot of them, by the way. Okay. Every day I read. Most days I'm really good with that. But there is the day when, my dog starts yapping and I got to put the dog out. And all of a sudden it's like, I got to get to the gym and I got to get some food in my body and I got to get some hydration. And that's my priority. And I'm really good with that one. But all of a sudden that 15 minutes of prayer or meditation or reading or self-development, if you will, I missed that today.
Yeah.
So, those things, the things that we don't see, that maybe even other people see, maybe our spouse sees, maybe our significant other, maybe one of our kids, maybe a good friend sees and goes, if John did this, boy, he would improve that, but he's not willing to do that. Whether it's our speech, even, whether it's our vocabulary. There's so many things to improve in life, right? Till the last day we close our eyes, there's so many things to improve on. So, how does somebody take that thing that maybe that other person sees and says, if they just did this, their situation would improve, whether it's their health, whether it's their finances, whether it's their relationship with their significant other, whether it's whatever it happens to be. How do they see that?
I think that's a great question. I think the first is having the self-awareness. I think if you don't have self-awareness, there's really nowhere to start. So I think for you, it sounds like you're self-aware. And I think for a lot of us, we are self-aware. It's just the difference between awareness and action. And so if you're somebody I don't feel like I'm super self-aware, like I know I have weaknesses, but I'm just not really sure where to start. The easiest place to think about is like, how do you want to feel more in life? And when I say feel, I really mean the emotions, fulfillment. Because the only reason we want anything in life is because the way we think it'll make us feel, right? So if I want XYZ, because I want to feel fulfillment, I want to feel confidence. And so the magic that you're looking for is always in the work that you're avoiding. We're like, okay, maybe I'll do this thing and that thing. And I think to your point, John, let's just use you as an example and me as well, because it's the same thing with me. I think when we're like high achievers, ambitious, maybe the recovering perfectionist, whatever the kind of that personality type, probably the personality type that's listening to this podcast, we're very action oriented, right? So like we want to do things that feel tangible in the sense of like getting in my water, getting in my steps, sending out X amount of DMs, booking this podcast. These things feel like outward action energy. And something like journaling, meditating, gratitude, prayer just feels like we won't say this, but like a waste of time. We're just like, could go without it. It doesn't give us that immediate kind of like feeling of like action, right? So I think when it comes to that, it's almost like giving yourself a challenge. And to answer your question, which your question was, how do we become, and correct me if I'm like wrong, your question was, how do we become aware of the things that we're not aware of? Or is it more so, how do we go from awareness to action on the things that we are weak in? And
It's the things that we're weak in that we can improve, that other people see that we don't self see. And let me see if I can find an example. Okay, I hate self-deprecating people. I hate when somebody puts themselves down all the time. I can't lose weight. I can't lift weight. I can't make money. I can't get along with my spouse. I can't, whatever.
mm-hmm.
I know you go back to something Bruce Lee said many years ago. It's like you don't even tell your mind once that you can't do something because your mind is not that smart. It will believe what you tell it.
Right.
But so to me, when I hear somebody, but sometimes I know I do that. Maybe because of my age. People say I'm preoccupied with my age because I do mention it a lot. I find I just can't believe I'm going to be 64 years old. But sometimes I tell myself, you know what, you are almost 64, John. So you shouldn't be able to bench press this amount of weight anymore. You shouldn't be able to do this anymore. And then I'm like, what the hell are you telling yourself that for? That becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I tell
Right.
myself that I can do it now, if I can't do it because it's just a physical limitation, so be it. But that doesn't mean you don't try. Okay. And that kind of example. And everybody's got that, right? It's so easy.
Yeah.
Give me another example. It's so easy to walk into somebody else's business. And this happened to me when I was living up in Canada. I was training at a really nice gym in Cornwall, Ontario. And the owner said to me one day, what would you change if you were me? And I saw things in his business because all of a sudden he asked me to put my business hat on. And he wasn't paying me. We just became friends. And he said, just tell me what you changed. And there were certain things that when I said, well, if you change this and you change that, I think you'd get more customers that would stay on the monthly pay system that, to support the gym. So even the months where they didn't come, they came once or twice, you'd still be collecting from them. They wouldn't cancel as much. There were certain things that I saw in his business that he didn't see because he was too close to it. He was there every day. You know what I mean?
Right.
And as human beings, there's things you could see in me if we hung out together, and there's things I could see in you. I go, hey, Lexi, if you did this, you might get this outcome. You go, man,
Yeah.
I never thought of that, and vice versa.
Right.
You probably have a. I'm being self-deprecating now. You probably have a really long list with me, John. If you did this and this, and if you take me,
Well, yeah.
the list would probably be longer. But to that point, right? How does somebody take that, maybe even what they look at as criticism, and say that person's got a point? How
Mm.
And then how do we take that information, not be upset with it, and say, yeah, they got a point. Maybe if I didn't have 3 hamburgers, I had 2, I might lose that 10 pounds. That's a
Yes.
very simplistic example.
Yes, I love this question. The first point is everybody is a mirror to us. I think it's the beautiful thing about human relationships. And what do I mean by that? If somebody's reflecting back to you something that triggers you, that is always a reflection of something within yourself. And if you want to become more self-aware, and then I'll get into the second part of this question, just look at what triggers you about other people. Like how you said, I just hate self-deprecating people. Like, come on. But then you mentioned as well that you can also be that way, even though you are very focused on mindset. Same here. I'm so focused on you can and your mindset. But like the past 3 days, I've been so beating myself up. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not like me. But we all have it. So the things that trigger you in other people, let's say for another example, they're so full of themselves. Maybe there's nuance here. There are people who are arrogant a-holes, right? But we're not talking about them. Let's talk about someone who's confident, they're sure of themselves, and you're thinking, they're just so like full of themselves, or they need to tone it down a little bit. Mirror, because what is that reflecting back to you, right? And so when it comes to being able to be aware when you're too close to it, it really is about if it triggers you. I always say triggers are gifts. Triggers aren't these bad things that mean that there's something wrong with you. Triggers are little alarm bells that say, hey, healing opportunity here. And we're not like, we don't want to fall into the trap of always needing to fix ourselves. Like, we're never going to get to this place where we're fully healed, never triggered again, never have weaknesses. It's just not going to happen. That's why we have this human experience, to have limitations and to overcome it and to share wisdom with others. But whenever we are feeling like that sense of they criticized me, and turning it into feedback, because we've all felt that way, it's because there's a part of you that fears that it might be true and what that might mean about you. But if we can learn to really be objective with ourselves the same way we do a business, we're not going to take it so personally. And I'm sure, as John, like when it comes to business, like you can't take things in business personally. If you take everything in business personally, you're not meant for business. But it's the same thing with ourselves. Again, something to your point is, I don't want to out anybody here, but I'm just going to say somebody that was staying with me, they were sick and it was fine, but they started to feel better. And it was just like TV from morning to night, like TV from morning to night, like binge watching TV. And I'm like giving grace because they were sick, whatever, but I'm just starting to get irritated and like frustrated. And like, how can you like just binge TV like all day and like just like numb out? And the first thing I always ask myself is like, what is this reflecting back to me? Why am I really bothered? And I'm really bothered because I waste a lot of time scrolling on my phone, even though I am pretty productive. Like, where am I wasting time? Where am I feeling like I'm wasting my own potential? And to that person, I said, hey, like, why don't you like go walk a little bit and get some sunshine. Like sitting inside all day, like you're not going to feel good. They got a little triggered because they felt bad about sitting on the couch all day and watching TV. They're like, ah, whatever. But then they texted me later, hey, I went on that walk. I got sunshine. I feel a little bit better. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I think that's a good example of I was a mirror to them. It triggered them, but they ended up understanding, you know what, they're right. And the only reason it triggered me was because they were right.
Mm,
And being right, the truth, it hurts sometimes, but the truth will set you free. And they did the thing and it set them free. And the same thing with me. Oh, crap. I'm really bothered by them wasting time just mindlessly consuming. When I do that, look at my screen time outside of work. I do that and I have to change that. So I think we can be mirrors for each other when it comes to the triggers or gifts. And if you just look at it objectively and understand that the truth sucks sometimes, but it doesn't have to mean anything about who you are. And the last thing I want to say with this is there's a difference between guilt and shame,
mm,
right? Guilt, people like always, oh, but I don't want to feel guilty. Guilt is good. Guilt, in my opinion, shows you where you're out of alignment. Guilt means I did something wrong. I did something out of alignment or out of character, and we need to course correct. But shame is I am wrong. I am bad. And doing this thing makes me a bad person, a wrong person, and a shameful person. And that is when we get stuck in the I can't, right? Because there's no such thing as I can't, only I won't, or I'm not willing, or I don't believe. And so that's where I would leave that at.
we just saw Saturday night. I don't know if you saw this or not, but yeah, I'm a big fan of collegiate wrestling. And the Olympic champion in the heavyweight weight class went back to college. He had 1 year of eligibility left. And another guy, okay, who had transferred from the Air Force Academy to Oklahoma State, in the finals Saturday night, he beat him. First time in 6 years that the Olympic champion, a guy named Gable Stevenson, had lost a match. And you looked at it and a lot of theatrics around it and everything else. But at the end of the day, when we think we can't do something, think of that. Here's a guy that on the surface is unbeatable.
Yeah.
And then another a college guy, and about the same age, okay? With these college kids now with COVID, they're in college for 12 years. So they're all 37, not really, they're in their 20s. But my point is, it's okay, there's one of so many examples of somebody shouldn't have been able to do something, but thought they could and did.
Yeah.
And if he wrestled the guy another 99 times, he might lose 99 of them. But the one time, the 1980 Olympic hockey team that beat the Russians as one time. So we see this in sports all the time, but we see it in life in so many ways that maybe aren't on ESPN, but they happen. Lexi, last two questions to wrap up here. I don't want to take your entire day, but I can talk to you forever. I love talking to you. Two questions, okay? Tell people about your podcast. Where can they find your podcast?
Yeah. So my podcast is called Woman in Progress by Lexi T. I believe there's another podcast called Woman in Progress. So Woman in Progress by Lexi T. And you can find that on Apple, Spotify, and I upload podcasts weekly. Ours is finally almost done. I had storage issues, but I'm so excited to drop ours. And yeah, that's where you can find my podcast.
And if somebody wants to get a hold of you, I realize you're in South Florida, right? But you coach people with all these great tools that we have today. You can coach people anywhere in the world. Somebody wants to reach in and says, hey, I need some coaching, some guidance on my health, on nutrition, and maybe on life. Where can they find it?
Yeah. So you can find us on Instagram. That is the easiest way for us to connect. I would put my current username, but I'm actually going to be changing it to my full name soon. If you want to connect to my personal Instagram, my business one, it is Flexi, FLEXI.fitness. Possibly in the future, if you're listening to this in the future, Alexis.Taveras, going full name here. And if you want to get support, whether you're male, because I know you also have a lot of men that listen, you can still get a lot of value from our content. Embody Her underscore health coaching on Instagram. That is our business page where we're putting out content around, we're really targeting women, but like I have a ton of male viewers as well that get a ton of value. So that's where you can find and connect and hopefully get a ton of value for your health, wellness, and all of the things.
Great. Lexi, this has been a privilege, and I can't wait for people to hear this show. There's so much wisdom by by somebody that's so young still, too. You're just kind of getting started, but you already know so much, and you're helping so many people, more importantly. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much. Yes, excited. Thank you, John.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check back weekly for more exciting episodes. And don't miss Ink and Insight every Wednesday, where we celebrate iconic authors and dive into their impactful works.